to Off with Their Headlines. I am your co-host, Amanda Matta, joined by the fresh, the lovely Meredith Constant over there, smizing for the camera.
Hello.
We
Sorry,
are
I'm doing my
back.
best British accent because today is the theater.
Yes, we are very excited for this episode. It's another thematic exploration of the royal media landscape, and I am so here for it. Meredith, well, you just said it. What are we talking about today?
We are talking about, first of all, the private summit, I'm using air quotes there, and the coverage of it between King Charles's aide and also Prince Harry's. And then we're going to get into just the way that the royals have interacted with theater, their love of theater, portrayals of them in theater. We're talking some older ones, some historical ones, and also some modern day controversies.
Controversies. I love it.
After watching Diana the Musical, yes, and
deserved controversies.
Wowzer. But also, where can the people find us if they don't want this? They don't want ads. They don't want,
I'm so glad you asked. But we also have a Patreon where you can get early, ad-free, and bonus episodes every couple of weeks. We also have free community discussions over there, as well as video episodes and tiers where we profess our undying love to you in increasingly weird ways.
We are shameless.
I would say. Yeah.
And I also want to add that our bonus episode for this month dropped. We did a little coffee wine talk, depending on where you were in the world. And it was fun. It was a little off the rails, and there was a lot of physical comedy. We make bear faces at each other. There's a spider. A lot is going on in that episode. So we did make that video open to everyone on our paid Patreon, just to get a little sample of what the $10 and up tier is like. And we also made it available for purchase. They only let you do, though, just like low-key, they only let you do the amount of your lowest tier. Okay. So
$3.
That's why it's $3. I didn't really have a choice, but I put it at the lowest possible, entry point. So if you're in our free Patreon community or you just want to check out what are we like on video, well, let me tell you. It's not boring.
It's not boring. It's never boring with you, Meredith. But if you don't want to pay for video, but you still like the video on the main feed episodes, you can get those on YouTube 1 week after the original air date. So you're just a little behind the times in terms of why we're making faces at each other. But it's cool. That's there.
It works. Yeah. It works. Yeah. So enough of that. We have so much to talk about. Let's dive in with the big royal news from the last couple of days, which was this peace summit of sorts.
The secret Harry Prince peace summit that happened outside on a terrace.
Secret terrace meeting
where people are looking into the camera lens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, the paparazzi are just sitting out there for no particular reason because surely Meredith Maines, the chief of staff and communications director for Harry, is just going to be sitting there. The Mail on Sunday had the exclusive. They broke the story, and here is the headline: The Secret Harry Peace Summit. King Charles and Duke of Sussex's senior aides meet for talks near Royal Palace in first step towards reconciliation, and strongest sign yet, both sides want to resolve bitter family feud. I don't know if we know what titles are over at the Daily Mail, but before we get into it, it's important to note the players here. So you had Meredith Maines, again, who is chief of staff and comms director for the Duke of Sussex. And then you had Liam McGuire, who oversees UK press for Harry and his wife. So keep that one in mind as we discuss. And then you also have Tobin Andrea. There's a lot of vowels at the end that are tripping me up. He is King Charles's communications secretary. He also used to be the editor for the Daily Mail, and before that, Tatler. This is nothing new. Charles and Camilla have relationships with editors. They've gotten chummy. That was part of the PR strategy back when they were rehabbing Camilla's image in the 90s to make her palatable as Charles's future wife. And there are people who have worked for these tabloids and such that then move over and work for the palace. So those are the three players. Amanda, what were you seeing? What caught your eye?
Well, I just love the location of this meeting, which really does, I think, lend itself well to calling it a peace summit. I don't know. So these folks met at the Royal Overseas League, or the ROSL, which is the Daily Mail tells us, a 3-minute walk from Clarence House, which is where Charles lives in London. He does not like Buckingham Palace, very famously. A not-for-profit organization that champions international friendship across the world, use of our grade 1 listed clubhouse in the heart of St. James. So it's like a private members club for global players, which I just love that this is where this meeting took place. And it was outside. It was on a terrace.
Yeah, so what I read was that they spent 10 or so minutes on the terrace
And then they
before
went
going
inside.
which is why, coupled with the fact they are 3 minutes from Clarence House, I have a very hard time believing anybody in that group did not understand that this was going to go public and that this was going to be picked up. I do not see a world where anyone at that table does not understand what they're doing here.
Yes, and Meredith Mains, the Mail on Sunday tells us, is the person behind Harry's BBC interview in May, where he said he would love a reconciliation with his family. He doesn't know how long his father has left, but the king won't speak to him. So it's hard to believe that this isn't part of a longer strategy to control the narrative of the family rift. And I mean, ultimately, probably see it come to a conclusion. However, we did have this morning, as we're recording, a piece from the Daily Express. Prince Harry and Meghan deny leaking details of Secret King Peace Summit. So this was described not as a formal negotiation, but as an informal drink. So the private talks, the location, the timing, the timing of the meeting too, in the context of these stories we've been getting lately of, will Harry and William ever reconcile again at a place other than their father's funeral? Like, that's been a big story lately. I've been asked for comment on what would it take for them to repair the rift? Will Harry ever see his father again? And like, those stories, I think we're reaching such a place that something like this being injected into the narrative is not coincidental. However, Harry and Meghan are understood to have insisted that leaking the meeting was not their doing, according to the Daily Telegraph. I'm sorry, the Express is rewriting this. Let me pull up the original.
And there is a world.
Victoria Ward.
Yeah, and there is a world where they technically didn't leak the details of this meeting. That could be all the way. It could be true, right? That makes sense. But I don't believe that the two people representing Harry did not know what this was about. You don't fly out Meredith Mains from the U.S. for a terrace drink.
Yeah, Victoria Ward at the Telegraph is calling it an extraordinary development in relations between the two royal households, which have been almost non-existent in recent years. They also call it, I've heard the word rapprochement used a lot. So apparently these are the first steps towards reconciliation. Details, including the venue, timings, and nature of the talks, were leaked to the Mail on Sunday. This is what led to the photographs being taken. That's kind of the chain of events that's being purported currently. Victoria Ward says the leak has jeopardized the fragile peace operation, creating further suspicion and distrust on both sides and potentially sending them back to square one. Sources close to Prince Harry insisted that the Sussex were not responsible and acknowledged that having the details of the meeting on newspaper front pages was hardly an ideal way to start what they hoped would be a period of peace. Buckingham Palace, of course, declined to comment. So,
you know what my first reaction was to hearing that? That we need this story to have drama. Yeah. And so writing that the fact it made it to the media and it leaked,
they didn't want that.
That could jeopardize this because it's that maybe things aren't going well. But I actually think the fact that they're at the point where they are publicly meeting and being photographed together, they're probably farther along in this process. Yeah. There have been, I find it hard to believe that this is the first time they've all gotten on a call or found a way to meet. This is just the first time we're seeing it publicly. But I think the media needs to have this story of this, like, will they or won't they, you know, like make up or what does it all mean? And now each side might not talk to each other. They need this suspense because everyone meets and it's all good. That's not a good story. That's not compelling.
No. And apparently Meredith Mains was in the UK during the meeting. She was in the UK at all because she was meeting the British-based Sussex communications team for the first time. She was only appointed as their chief communications officer back in March. So apparently this was the first time she's kind of liaised with the British team there. So I don't know, it could have been related to that. Her own role within the Montecito kind of sphere. She does work out of Montecito, apparently, not out of any separate office. Like, she's headquartered at Harry and Meghan's home, which I think is very interesting. And like really, really speaks to the fact that they run their affairs like royals. But I love
they're
that.
going to keep it close to home. I've heard a little bit about Miss Mains, and she is apparently like one of those people you want in your corner. She is going to get it done no matter what. You know, she is tenacious, and I perhaps could ruffle some feathers, but she gets things done is what my understanding is. And if we look at what's happened over the last couple of months, that BBC interview after the ruling came out, that was really smart. That got a lot of attention. And looking back, it wasn't just about Prince Harry getting his side out there, but kind of laying the groundwork and telegraphing his desire to reconcile with his family and what that would take.
You know what it's giving? It's giving, what was her name in Red, White, and Royal Blue? Zara? Was that her name?
So.
The
it was something like that.
The chief of staff who like had to deal with everything and was so done with everyone's shit. That's what I'm imagining Meredith Mains' character to be. I'm probably wrong, but the other thing that had people chattering about this summit was that it kicked Kate off the big headline on the Daily Mail's front page for the weekend. When she stepped out at Wimbledon, she got relegated to a little box at the bottom of the page, and above her was revealed the secret Harry Peace Summit. So I don't know what that tells us about the media landscape, but that also happened.
That's super interesting. I saw chatter about that online, which it's not Harry and Meghan's fault. It's what the papers are deciding.
The piece was also written by the editor at large at the Daily Mail, not by Rebecca English, which you know she's pissed.
I thought that was interesting as well, because you're telling me that the Royal Rota rep, the domestic
wasn't the one to get the scoop.
Didn't get the scoop.
Right.
I also wonder about the lack of William's private secretary being there. That points to, it makes me think of a lot of things. Like, first of all, King Charles is in charge. So we don't need anyone else there. Also, maybe the fear of any leaking or anything going on. But also with the timing, I wonder if obviously William and Kate don't want this summit happening or participating in this summit in so much as press coverage goes, because it is going to kick off Kate's return to Wimbledon from the front page.
I'm rolling my eyes just at the tone that is given to any time she steps out of the house, not the work she does. So let me make that be very clear.
Truly. So
yeah. So I'm eager to hear more, or maybe see a shift in media coverage or shift in just the trajectory of this family rift from here on out. I do find the timing of it so convenient to put a stop to all of these, like, when will they reunite stories that have like been on tabloid front pages for the last couple of months. Somebody had their eye on the ball with this meeting, and I don't think it's a bad thing that it was leaked. Like, I think that's actually pretty useful for the narrative.
I think so too. And I wouldn't be surprised if, we've talked about this before with Kate, if they're testing the waters and getting a temperature check for how people are going to react to this, the public reaction to them all meeting, and kind of what that looks like and how people are replying to it.
Absolutely. They love to poll the audience.
They love it.
Well, speaking of polling the audience, or not, because some of these choices that have been made across royal theatre history I have questions about, we are going to dive into a few different topics that have been on our wish list to discuss for a while. Meredith, I will let you take it away because you have the funnest topic.
I'm not going to lie, low-key, since I watched this with my boyfriend, we have been singing different lines from the show.
Was that the first time you had seen it?
That was the first time. I went in completely blind, and man, am I happy I did, because there is a point where she looks at Charles, the main woman. I know we're doing this out of order, but she looks at Charles and she goes, "A baby Charles, I'm going to have your baby Charles. Are you happy, Charles?" Like, her accent just changes all the time. And it's just, "Are you happy, Charles?" And he's like, "Whatever, love me." They all have their little phrase that they say. It is wowzer. So should we just start with Diana the musical?
The fever dream that is Diana the musical. My God.
So have you seen it before?
Yes, I saw the Netflix show version when they recorded it. I did see the marquee for it when I was in New York. Gosh, I guess that was the last time I was in New York, because I saw Hadestown, which was right across the street. And I turned around and I was like, man, if I was doing my job correctly, I would be over there. But screw it. And I went and saw Hadestown with the original cast instead. I regret nothing.
I think you had the right idea there. Diana the musical. What is crazy about this thing is that when you look at the team, you think to yourself, this is this should be good. It was this little California show that had previews in La Jolla in February of 2019. The musical is by Joe DiPietro and David Bryan, who is a founding member of John Bon Jovi.
Sure, of course.
They were the duo behind the Tony-winning musical Memphis. Then you had direction by Christopher Ashley. David Zinn was the set designer. He's a 10-time Tony nominee. William Ivy Long did the costumes, 18-time Tony nominee. He's won 6. So you look at this team and you're like, this can't fail. But oh boy, could it. Could it ever. So in February of 2019, it has previews in La Jolla. Here are some of the reviews from Broadway World, LA Times. It's a little bit of everything. So I'm just going to read some of the highlights. So the first one is, overall, the show could have benefited from getting some notes from the female perspective when working on the story.
It could have used a woman's touch.
The LA Times said, they clumsily incorporate too many biographical side notes, and when Diana's shocking end comes, it has no more emotional weight than an old CNN news clip. That's another one. So a lot of negative reviews, which I get now that I have seen it. Diana the Musical is 2 hours of a show that's almost always on the same note. The songs after a while sound the same. The rhymes are excruciating. This is what I think the main issue is. Let me know what you think. They try to cover Diana from the time she is 19 to her death. Yeah. That is very hard to do in 2 hours.
It could have been, it would have been a different show entirely. You could have zoomed in on one period in her life, kind of like we saw with the film Spencer.
Yes.
Say what you want about that movie. I kind of liked. They were doing something different, I think, and that's why I liked it. This just felt, we were trying to do too many like winks and nods to the audience, being like, listen, we get why she's a meme, and like, here you go. Isn't this what you wanted? And it's like, this is not what anyone wanted.
Nobody wanted this. It didn't know if it was serious or camp, and it didn't really land either. I think they should have gone full camp.
Just a parody musical.
So camp, because the costumes are beautiful. But the other problem, too, is because they're trying to fit so much in, Diana is almost unlikable because she doesn't have enough time to develop her character because of how fast everything moves.
She's moving through too quickly.
It's way too quick that Camilla, after a while, you're kind of like, do I like Camilla in this situation? My boyfriend looked at me and said, I think I'm rooting for Camilla and Charles to be together because she has a little more time to develop, and she kind of comes off a lot more sympathetic, which is wild.
I do remember Diana's character feeling like a little bit like an upstart in the musical. She's doing the most when it comes to displaying her inner emotions. And there's a whole song where there's like the back and forth between what's happening in reality and what's happening inside her head. And it's just, that does the musical itself no favors, because I don't think that was ever Diana's, I don't think she was ever giving herself the little hype up of when she's in the revenge dress. You just know she's going like, I look hot as fuck, like I look so good, and Camilla, eat your heart out. But like the beauty of that moment in real life was Diana just going about her business, going to this summer party, looking hot AF, but like without really trying. Like, is this musical trying too hard, Meredith?
I would say yes, but also no, because it's just so bad. They needed a female perspective. They probably needed another
British perspective.
I think so too, because if you know Diana lore, which there are a lot of Americans that really know Diana's story because that's just their favorite princess, it really does a disservice to those people who are looking for those historical accuracies. The other thing, and I knew this would drive you nuts too, the queen pours her own tea.
Sure. Yeah.
And stuff like that, where why wasn't there someone there consulting?
Don't they try to make
British?
The queen like a boss bitch in this musical?
So the queen is very weird, and her energy is very weird. And some people did say that this had an American lens on these characters, although I believe the person playing the queen is British. She's Dame, I forget her name. But they make her really hard in a way that doesn't quite work. And then she does have this emotional moment, which is honestly one of the best songs in the show, called An Officer's Wife, where she talks about when she's just an officer's wife to Philip and they're stationed in Malta, and then her father dies, and then quickly she is now queen and whatever happened to that officer's wife. The problem is it comes too late in the show. It's 5 freaking minutes, which we don't need. And it's just weird. And the other thing they do is they make the queen Barbara Cartland, who is this novelist, this romance novelist, who is the through line in kind of how Diana approaches romance. It's like fairy tales from her favorite writer, who's also a step grandparent or something like that. And the queen also plays Barbara Cartland.
Yeah.
And it's really, really confusing when you see it because it still feels like the queen. And that really messes with the brain.
Sure. The thing I remember most from watching, and mind you, it's been a few years, I remember very boxy costumes. I know you said you liked the costumes, Meredith. I didn't love them. I felt like they were trying too hard, but still like missing the mark in a weird way. I know you recently shared what you were watching. The sheep sweater that they put her in. It's like, why didn't
that one's bad.
Why didn't they just buy the real sheep sweater? I don't know.
The sheep sweater is crazy. I will give you that because it just looks like this weird amalgamation of a cat and a horse. It's so bad. I will give you that. Some of the things though that you've seen Diana in, they do hit those notes. And I love some of the transitions with the costumes. Like that was doing the most. The transition with the wedding dress where it's not her originally in the wedding dress. She's talking about the scene and then she pops into the wedding dress is a really good.
I liked the transitions. Yes, you're right. But I don't know. It was so unsatisfying on multiple different levels to me. So.
It really is. I'm not advocating to not be a sober individual. I'm not saying that you should be, maybe in an altered state while watching this, but it doesn't hurt is what I'm saying. Okay, the show moves to Broadway in 2020. It makes it to Broadway. The previews begin. Are you ready for this? The previews begin on March 2nd, 2020.
Unfortunately.
Not great timing. On March 12th, it was suspended. And then they're trying to figure out what to do with it, which is where Netflix comes in. But before, we'll get into some of the reviews of its time on Broadway.
Please.
The New York Times review is titled Exploiting the People's Princess. And it's a great review. The best part comes at the end that says, if you decide to write a musical about a real woman known worldwide who died tragically while still a young mother, something more rigorous is demanded. Diana, though, is lazy and thus neither entertaining nor insightful, though audiences talk back to it at will, it's not even campy fun. It's just exploitative, doing the Princess of Wales pretty much what the tabloid press, let alone the monarchy, did to her in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a good summary of this show.
Yeah. And I do remember at the time the musical was coming back to Broadway and the Netflix screening of it was being announced. That was a big discussion. It's like, can't we just let this woman rest? Because we have, I think, reached a point of cultural fatigue with Diana. The references that are organic, I think, are fine. The social media references, the fashion references, fine. But this constant rechurning of her story, whether it's for books or movies or now the musical, because the musical came after several movies like back to back to back were released and The Crown was still happening.
Yes.
So people were feeling very, very fatigued. And this was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back.
And it's annoying too, because there should be a Diana musical. There should be. But the fact that it's this is so upsetting. So what ends up happening, they decide because of COVID, they are going to partner with Netflix and film it. And the hope was that it would bring demand in once it returned to the Great White Way, that people would watch it and say, I have to see this in person. So it's released October of 2021.
That's never going to be the reason to do pro shots of musicals. I'm so sorry. As somebody who has advocated for a long time for pro shots of Broadway musicals, that's accessibility. That's not marketing for the Broadway musical. I think like there will be the diehard fans that see the pro shot and then want to go see it in person. But for something like Diana the musical, I think we can be so honest with ourselves and say like, you're going to get the streaming money, the revenue for putting it on Netflix. And that's okay if that's your reason, like fine. I don't think you should be then banking on people coming in person.
Yeah, I do wonder about that. And I also wonder though, if since Netflix had The Crown, if there was a hope that, if people watch The Crown, they would recommend Diana the musical and maybe it would gain a following. I will say, I don't think it becomes this cult-like show, which it kind of has this little cult-like hate watch following. It's so bad, it's good kind of thing because of Netflix. I don't think that. I think it goes away silently.
It would have been a blip otherwise, yeah.
But now that we have actual video of it, so there are some very interesting reviews of this. So The Guardian does a review, and this I really felt deeply. says Diana the musical has the look and feel of an intentional parody, a sort of springtime for Hitler for Daily Express readers.
I love
which is
that.
such a good call. For anyone that hasn't seen The Producers, Springtime for Hitler is the show that they're putting on, thinking it's going to be so bad it'll tank, and recouping money and stuff, and intentionally putting on a really, really bad show.
Right.
And that's what The Guardian is saying.
But Springtime for Hitler, like, unintentionally became successful.
Yes, that's
This
a big
did
difference
not.
here. Also, the Guardian review is so scathing. It says, Diana died a quarter of a century ago and will never get to see Diana the musical. Some people get all the luck.
Oh, no.
It is just, here's a really good line that they point out, because at first you do get this paparazzi dance number and you think to yourself, this might be an examination through the lens of the paparazzi, but then they like disappear after that. They're almost this Greek chorus, and then they kind of forget that idea. So it says, Diana the musical contains a song where Diana is chased through the streets of London by members of the paparazzi who all chant, better than a Guinness, better than a wank, snap a few pics, it's money in the bank, in excruciating cod Cockney accents. So I'm sure you'll understand that good isn't necessarily the first adjective I'd reach for here, which is so good. It does eventually make it to Broadway. It closes within a couple weeks. I think they do maybe 50 shows. It's at 50% capacity. This clearly doesn't work. I want to point out one more interesting in the review and then tell you where it goes from here.
Please.
So the Telegraph reviews it, which I always find interesting. You know, what does a British outlet have to say about this? They definitely focus on the Americanness of the show.
Okay.
And that being the problem with it. They bring up the fact that they didn't remove any rogue Americanisms, like the People's Princess wishing she could sock Camilla. I didn't know that was just an American thing.
What would they say in Britain? Wallop?
Maybe wallop.
I was watching My Fair Lady last night, and they talk about walloping.
It might be that. They also point out that the person who plays James Hewitt is hilarious, and that's such a funny part.
I do agree with that. That was pretty funny.
That was wild. But then they also say that the person who played Camilla overrode the hostility to make her look admirably stoic. They make sure to say, by the way, Camilla's fantastic in the show.
Yes.
I mean, it really humanizes Camilla. What happens is, surprise of all surprises, it goes to London in 2023, which you might be thinking to yourself, why? Why would you subject a British audience to this? It's mostly a different cast as well. The thing is, though, they change it into this concert event. So you have this full orchestra in the background, which is cool. They also, I think they removed the Barbara Cartland character.
But the concert, I think, only really works when everyone already knows the songs and already knows the music and the stories, and it's been 20 years.
I don't disagree, although there wasn't a ton of dancing in the musical anyway.
True.
They decide to change Diana a bit so that there's a younger Diana and an older Diana.
Good.
And I think that was a really good change. Apparently, every time Charles and Camilla were on stage, the London audience was booing their faces off. And I thought that was interesting, given this whole, everyone loves the Queen, and Camilla's never been more popular. And it goes with my theory that she's popular with the press, but not really anyone else. And their relationship is not really popular with anyone else. So that is Diana the musical. But I want to tell you the good news. This is the greatest news of all. Okay. As of 2023, you can license the rights to the script, to the book, and put on Diana the musical for yourself, for community theater, for regional theater, any kind of theater. So I'm just saying, any of you theater directors out there, I think I have your next show. I can't say I recommend it, but the story of how it came to be and how it was just flubbed in the worst way, it's interesting.
If you haven't seen Diana the musical, is it still on Netflix? Is that where you watched it?
Oh boy, it is.
Oh boy. Hey, well,
there's a part where she randomly, there's a big musical interlude, and then it stops, and then she just belts Te Amo, and I lost my mind. We paused and went back because I said, I think she just said Te Amo. My boyfriend's like, she didn't, there's no way.
She
just said, and we put on the closed caption, and she says Te Amo. After this big Charles.
Who does she think she is?
Belts Te Amo and then Te Quiero, like I want. And then she says it in French. And my stomach hurt. I was laughing so loud because it was so unexpected. And Terry looks at me and says, was Diana known for her Spanish? Like, did she say Te Amo a lot? Because he's not going in with a lot of reference to Diana. And I said, not as far as I know. It was the wildest interjection.
Well, I wanted to look into something, dare I say, a little bit more authentically connected to the royal family. So I brought up as a subtopic Prince Charles, aka King Charles, I guess, and his enduring love. Well, okay, because like
You're so sassy.
I'm gonna be talking about him when he was Prince of Wales,
Okay.
mostly. So I have Prince Charles written here. So I sometimes forget that he's king now, or like I feel like this is really meta in my head. Prince Charles and King Charles are like two different people. Does that happen to you ever?
Yeah, actually, I do have to think about them as separate entities,
right?
Oh, that is weird.
So I think I'm going to get into some of the psychology of why today, which was not where I expected my research to go.
I love this though.
So I wanted to look into the link between Prince Charles and the theater, specifically Shakespeare. Yeah, because in things like The Crown, you really see that played up a lot. So I wanted to look into like how realistic that was, and what I found is pretty interesting. So King Charles has talked a lot about his love for classical music and going to the theater to listen to classical music and see the ballet. He talks about his grandmother, Elizabeth the Queen Mother, being his introduction to the world of classical music. He was taken by her to Covent Garden, aged 7, to see the Bolshoi Ballet perform. This is an interview he did with Alan Titmarch on Classic FM. He says it was the Bolshoi's first visit to the UK, and he shall never forget that incredible occasion. He was really inspired and thinks that that's why it's so important for him to see grandparents and other relations take children at about the age of 7 to experience some form of the arts in performance. What a weird... this man.
I love that he's always been 53.
Has he ever been in public before? Sometimes is what I wonder. So he really advocates for live theater, live music,
which we love.
We do love. I love that he really is the first like arts king that we've had in a long time. Like if this was a different era, I can see Prince Charles like being a Louis XIV and just like starting a Versailles of his own and commissioning all of these artists. But alas, he has to live in London and renovate Buckingham Palace, you know? But the one thing that people really know about Charles is his love of Shakespeare. So he very famously played the Duke of Exeter in Henry V while he was at school. He also played the title role in Macbeth because, of course, you give the Prince of Wales the title role.
Weird
how that happened. That was at Gordonston. He earned favorable notice in the Sunday Telegraph because, again, of course he did. What are you going to do? Review the Prince of Wales poorly? I don't know.
He didn't really understand how to be royalty. He really didn't seem to connect with that experience.
No, it felt inauthentic. At Cambridge, he was also active in the Dryden Society. He wrote and performed his own skits, and later, while Prince of Wales, he became president of the Royal Shakespeare Company. In 1995, he starred as Prince Hal, aka Henry, Prince of Wales, in Henry IV Part 1 for a new audiobook. So he took on this project, reading some lines to, quote, remind listeners and readers of the delights of Shakespeare and inspire some of them to reread the plays or, better still, to see them on stage. He got to read the line, thou clay-brained guts, thou naughty-pated fool, thou whoreson, obscene, greasy tallow catch. This is in a scene where Prince Hal is taunting the character Falstaff after catching him in a lying boast. So a lot of people commented at the time, this is the heir to the throne playing the heir to the throne. So there were a lot of parallels there. And he was also very aware of it. When a few years earlier, Kenneth Branagh had played Henry IV for the Royal Shakespeare Company, Prince Charles had actually come on to advise him. He talked at length with Branagh about the character and the trials of being heir to the throne. What I wouldn't give to be a fly on that wall.
Why don't we have an actors on actors with this?
Right? And Branagh, in fact, went on to model his character on Charles. So I think that's pretty fun.
Incredible.
Yeah. Charles also edited and introduced something called The Prince's Choice, which is a collection of Shakespearean speeches in 1995. Much later, in 2016, he recorded a monologue from Shakespeare as a birthday present to Queen Elizabeth. Can't you just... Well, thank you. It's exactly what I wanted.
Mummy, I got this for you.
2016. Isn't that a little too old for like the present?
The handmade present. Although...
Sit here and watch me do this.
Although, in his defense, what do you get the Queen?
A Barbara Cartland novel. I don't know.
A Barbara Cartland.
Then in 2018, we got the BBC documentary to mark Prince Charles' 70th birthday. And in it, he invoked Shakespeare's portrayal of the character of Prince Hal. So he's coming back to Prince Hal again, and he calls Shakespeare's writing of the Prince of Wales dish. And he uses this as a chance to poo-poo the idea that as king, he would continue meddling in politics and bothering ministers with his thoughts.
Very interesting, given
Very
spider
interesting.
Spider memos have happened a couple of years earlier.
Yes. So I've never read the Henry IV play, but apparently, the character of Hal is very bothersome. And Charles said in the documentary, you can't be the same as the sovereign if you're the Prince of Wales or the heir. But the idea somehow that I'm going to go on in exactly the same way if I have to succeed is complete nonsense, because the two situations are completely different. You only have to look at Shakespeare plays, Henry V or Henry IV, parts 1 and 2, to see the change that can take place. Because if you become the sovereign, then you play the role in the way that is expected. Okay.
That's very interesting in light of William telegraphing his reign so hard. Not really, like, all of it is very intentionally laying the ground for when he's king.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was interesting.
It is interesting, isn't it? There's something psychological. He's like really hung up on Henry IV, especially.
Yeah.
In 2016, there's a very famous video of him joining British actors live on stage for, I forget what it was called, like Shakespeare-orama or something like that. It was the 400th anniversary of William Shakespeare's death, and he took a surprise crack at playing Hamlet. There's like a staged argument between Judi Dench, Benedict Cumberbatch, Ian McKellen, and David Tennant at the Royal Shakespeare Theatre. He is watching in the royal box, but he goes backstage as they're like arguing on how to deliver the to be or not to be line. And he comes on stage and he goes, "Might I have a word?" And he gives the soliloquy himself. So that's a video you can go watch if you would like.
Do you think that's why he was mad at Diana dancing on stage when they were married?
He just wanted to do Shakespeare.
He just wanted to be in a show too.
I really think he did. Now, the most interesting injection of Shakespeare, I think, is in 2022 after Queen Elizabeth has passed away, and he's addressing the nation, and he uses the phrase, "May flights of angels sing thee to thy rest," which is a line from Hamlet, who is saying those words over his friend Horatio. He says, "Good night, sweet prince, flights of angels sing thee to thy rest." Authors and commentators say this is so ironic because Hamlet is lamenting the death of a very idle prince who has been betrayed by and who has murdered his estranged mother. So Horatio, not a great guy. And Hamlet's like kind of ironically saying, "Good night, sweet prince. Flights of angels sing thee to thy rest."
That is so cold if you take it as he's intentionally doing that. Yeah. He just thought to himself, no, nobody's reading Shakespeare. This is a really good line.
I just like the wordplay. Yeah. So the question becomes, well, does Charles actually get Shakespeare? Like, does he understand? Because he's using it as a tribute to his darling mama. And he's repeatedly talking about her devotion to the nation in this kind of tribute. So in response to this, Oxford professor Emma Smith has remarked that the monarchy has drawn on Shakespeare for its understanding of itself, and that this poetic inheritance serves as an important aspect of how Charles understands the world. So people have been able to lay this Shakespearean lens on top of current events and be like, oh yeah, that's how Charles sees himself and the monarchy. But he like also doesn't quite connect with how Shakespeare probably intended the characters to be read, because Shakespeare's kings are all pretty effed up. They're all these like broken, hollow shells of people. Don't have the darling mama character. They got these mommy issues. They have daddy issues. They kind of hate their heirs. So it's almost like Charles is looking at Shakespeare and being like, well, that doesn't apply to me. No, how could it?
Or on some secret level, is Charles one of the only people in the world that can read it and be like, yes, I do get it.
Yes. But he
is almost therapeutic.
He can't let us know that he's in on the joke. And so I think that's it's a very interesting time for Shakespeare to be part of the monarch's like lexicon and how he relates to the world. And he inserts Shakespeare into his speeches and quotes quite a bit. There's no hard evidence that he ever wanted like a career in the theater over being heir to the throne, but he definitely approached his time as heir through this lens and understood, well, Shakespeare like didn't know everything. Let me tell you the real story. So I just love this goofy man.
This man, you know what? God, Charles.
I also wanted to look at somebody who is connected to Charles and the theater world. And I'm really excited, Meredith, for you to hear some of this stuff today. But let's rewind back to 2023, the coronation of Charles and Camilla. I did receive an email from the team of this renowned Broadway producer, director, asking me to promote his brand new single, which he composed for the coronation. Do you remember this?
I do not remember this.
Andrew Lloyd Webber composed a new, I don't know what the word would be. It's not like a Te Deum. It's just a theme song, I guess, for the coronation of King Charles III. It's called Make a Joyful Noise. Have you not heard this?
I have never heard this.
Not paid, but they did send me collection of items from,
thank God,
it was from Highgrove. They sent me a hamper of like tea and jam and shortbread cookies from King Charles' estate as payment for like posting his song on one of my TikToks. It was about 30 seconds. The whole thing is only like 3 minutes long.
I mean, it's not going to be anyone's song of the summer, but it seems like it makes sense.
It made sense. It fit. It was not bad. He did send me a signed CD. The only track on it was Make a Joyful Noise and Make a Joyful Noise instrumental version.
That is so weird. Wait, Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Andrew Lloyd Webber. Yes, yes. Wow. So I wanted to go back and look at his relationship with the royal family, because we know that Charles loves the theater. We know that Andrew Lloyd Webber loves the monarchy. Andrew Lloyd Webber is the composer of such legendary Broadway hits as Cats, The Phantom of the Opera, Evita, and Jesus Christ Superstar. His more recent shows include, well, Bad Cinderella. So Andrew Lloyd Webber insists he doesn't have a close friendship with Charles, simply was knighted in 1992 and created an honorary life peer in 1997. And that's where my examination begins. You know, he had a whole career before that. He turned court composer for the coronation of King Charles III. But there's this whole chunk of time, 30 years in between, where I was like, what's he doing? Why do they like him so much? So I found that in 2012, he actually, he's Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber. He also teamed up with Gary Barlow from Take That to compose the Queen's official Diamond Jubilee song. So this was called Sing. This man, he recounted playing the song for the Queen. He says, "We put together a choir of racing people. Because, of course, the Queen's love of racing, we all know."
Were they racers that also moonlight as singers?
So no, I don't think so, because he goes on to say, "So I won't say it was the best choir that I've ever had." My dude, this guy, this will become a theme as we go on. He cannot help but throw his casts and his choruses under the bus if something doesn't go right. And it's like, maybe your choice stemmed from the fact that you got racing people because the Queen loved horses rather than their ability. I don't think she wants
to see choir people on horses.
Were they dressed in racing uniforms
there was
while they were singing?
Alternate universe. It's not like you would put choir singing people on horses.
Singing people.
And be like, yeah, it wasn't the best race. A lot of people fell.
Yeah. He says, "So I won't say it was the best choir that I've ever had, but we put that together and sang the song for her, and she was wonderfully generous about it. It sucked," translation. "She was wonderfully generous about it, and we performed 1 or 2 other songs. I knew she had a great love of Rodgers and Hammerstein from her childhood, so we did People Will Say We're in Love from the musical Oklahoma," which that's a bop. That's on my playlist from when I sing in the car.
not bad, but random.
Yeah. He was also part of the star-studded lineup performing for the Platinum Jubilee Party. Then, speaking to Hugh Edwards on the BBC after the Queen's death, he said, "I feel very, 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 lucky and privileged to have actually met what has to be probably the most remarkable woman of the past 50 years, 70 years. What more can one say?" I will say, quoting British people in writing when they were actually speaking out loud is some of the hardest readout that I ever have to do. It's not easy.
No.
He says, "I got to know her rather better when some years ago, well, it would be for her 60th birthday. This is for you, Meredith. Prince Edward asked me if I would write a musical, which was performed at Windsor." So he wrote a musical with Tim Rice.
Okay.
And he said, "That led, of course, to Edward coming and working in my company. And over the years, then, I've got to know her," the Queen, "a little bit sort of off duty." So,
I thought he was calling Edward a her. I said, wow, that's
no, the Queen.
Really lax.
So he wrote a musical called Cricket, which I do believe is just a reference to the sport. I don't think, for some reason in my head, I thought she had a pony named Cricket, but I don't think that is correct. No. I don't know why I had that in my head as like a fun fact. It's not true at all. So fake news for me. So he wrote a 30-minute comedy musical called Cricket, in which Prince Edward performed and sang.
Where is this
for
footage?
her 60th birthday.
Where is this
I
footage?
don't think it exists.
Also, why do her children torture her so? With these
They make her
birthday presents.
Well, I mean, when she was a kid, it was World War II, and she and Princess Margaret actually used to dress up. You can see pictures of this when they were just running around Buckingham Palace before the bombings. There was nothing else to do, so they dressed up and they put on little pantomime plays together. It's really cute. So she used to do it to other people, so I guess she's just getting her just desserts. Andrew Lloyd Webber went on to say about Elizabeth, she was always the queen, but it was quite wonderful to have the occasional chat with her sometimes. The odd disagreement even. He insists he's not like really, really super close with the monarchy. And he really insists on that when it comes to Charles, I think, because he doesn't want people to think he's getting special treatment. But with the queen, he does slip in, well, we would argue sometimes. It's like, okay, well, you're clearly spending a lot of time with her.
Yeah, you're close enough to disagree with each other.
Yeah. So that brings us to King Charles III's coronation, where he's composing the anthem Make a Joyful Noise. During the time he's composing it in New York, the Washington Post conducted an interview with him, and the author noted, it's not as if Lloyd Webber is a close confidant of the king or anything, although this is not the composer's first go-around with Charles III on matters of serious musicianship. Lloyd Webber remarked, the great thing about Charles is that he has a great love of really quite a lot of causes that are a little bit unfashionable. He cares very deeply about all sorts of quite interesting things. I mean, like 3 or 4 years before lockdown, I got a call from him saying, could I come around to meet him at Lancaster House quite urgently because he'd had an idea. What it was that he was worried about the fact that there wasn't enough access for young people to go and learn how to play the church organ. So King Charles, well, I guess Prince Charles, different guy, was really worried that enough young people were not getting into the church organ game, and he called Andrew Lloyd Webber to come talk about that.
That is the quintessential, this meeting could have been an email.
Yeah, really. He summoned Andrew Lloyd Webber because he'd had this passing thought. So I don't know. Don't tell me that you're not close if that's like the relationship that
you're getting
have.
summoned.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You know what I don't get? Why does he care if people think they're close or not? In what way does that negatively impact his career?
I don't think it does. I will give you some context at the end of like what was going on at this time in the background that I think makes it a little clearer. But let's then go to 2024, where Andrew Lloyd Webber was made a Knight Companion of the Most Noble Order of the Garter by Charles. So he got into the Order of the Garter before Kate did, I will say. It's not a dig. It's just like what are these people doing? Like, put Kate in already.
The order doesn't make sense.
No. So the order is limited to 24 ordinary members. That means like people from the outside world, not people in the royal family. Usually it's people who have held high public office, former prime ministers. Otherwise, it's people who have served the sovereign personally or foreign royalty. So Andrew Lloyd Webber became the first person from the world of the arts and culture to be made a member of the Order of the Garter. So I think that's notable, and maybe is why he's trying to like downplay his personal connection, and it doesn't work. So during COVID, Andrew Lloyd Webber tried to stage a musical, which has gone down in theater infamy. And it's not really connected to the royals other than the book was written by Emerald Fennell, who played Camilla on The Crown. Yes.
Huh.
Yep. So the musical was originally called Cinderella. It got rebranded to Bad Cinderella when it eventually came over to Broadway. He wrote the music, the lyrics were by David Zippel, and it was a cheeky pop-styled twist on the fairy tale of Cinderella, but was affected really, really unfortunately by COVID. However, I don't think COVID not happening would have made this musical more successful. Would you like me to tell you the synopsis?
Yes, please.
All right. So Bad Cinderella takes place in the kingdom of Belleville, where the people are just as stunning as the idyllic scenery. I haven't seen it, but I've watched a YouTuber explain every beat for beat what goes on in this musical. The only thing standing in the way of them winning the most beautiful town competition for the 50th year in a row is Cinderella, who is a rebellious outcast who rejects everything the superficial residents of Belleville stand for. We also learn that a dragon has slayed the queen's beloved son, Prince Charming. So the musical starts with Cinderella vandalizing a statue of Prince Charming that is being revealed to I think the judges for the most beautiful town competition are there when she does this, and I think in the musical she spray paints a dick onto it or boobs. Yeah.
Whoa.
She's just a criminal, but she's our heroine. She's friends with Prince Charming's younger brother. It's her only friend. His name is Sebastian. The queen is going to host a ball to find a bride for her only remaining son. Cinderella seeks the godmother's help to transform herself into someone beautiful by the town's standards because she realizes her true feelings for her friend Sebastian. But along the way, she learns that being herself is all she needs, not to win Sebastian's heart, but to figure out her true destiny and create her own happily ever after. It's weird.
Okay.
The book is weird. The music's weird. There is no pro shot as far as I know. It has now closed, so I'm sorry. It originally was supposed to be staged like literally during COVID, and rehearsals were underway when COVID lockdowns affected Britain's theater scene. So he was very outspoken at the time against then Prime Minister Boris Johnson's lockdown measures, and the show was stalled. I believe it was opening night. Yeah, so ahead of the opening, emails went out from the press team that postponed invitations to critics. Like, I think it was like the day of, because cast members kept testing positive for COVID. Andrew Lloyd Webber complained very openly that masks were ruining the performances, that his cast couldn't cope. He said he almost terminated the initial run of the show because so many actors were out sick that it was almost the stage managers going on and taking the leading roles. And he really complained about this, stifling his ability to stage another show. At this time, he had had shows running continuously for 43 years. Yep. And after Bad Cinderella closed, that would be the first time he didn't have any running anywhere in the world because Phantom was closing, Evita had not yet opened. So he was really going through it. Omicron variants came back and kind of shut down the theater scene in London again. He said that Cinderella was going to go ahead, quote, come hell or high water. So the show was set to open on 21st, 2021. He said he was prepared to open his theaters that date, regardless of what COVID measures were in place, regardless of what government regulations were in place. He was prepared to be arrested if police intervened. It was brash. He, at the time, had a net worth of £525 million, but he said he had to remortgage his London home because of all the delays in starting the show.
What?
And look at that against the backdrop of the pandemic absolutely devastating the theater community. Theater actors being out of work for several years. It wasn't financially viable to be in that space. And here in the US, we didn't have the most robust response to COVID, but the theater community really did try to rally around one another. So him saying, come and arrest me if you don't want me to stage this show. He called June 21st Freedom Day, despite the fact that the Omicron variant was actually raging at the time. He said,
you are
there's
not
more.
reading the room. Oh,
There's
God.
more. There's so much more. He said that scientific evidence showed that theaters were completely safe and did not cause COVID outbreaks. He said if the government ignore their own science, we have the mother of all legal cases against them. If Cinderella couldn't open, we'd go, look, either we go to law about it or you'll have to compensate us. He also said he would take legal action if his theaters were not allowed to welcome back crowds at full capacity.
It is so interesting how people respond to COVID, and it's very telling.
Mm-hmm.
Of their values.
Yeah. So I think
this is how he reacted to this worldwide pandemic and putting his cast at risk, because at the time we didn't know a lot about, how long COVID impacts, and your cast just continually getting it that's unethical. I don't like it.
No, it's not great. And I'm not done. First of all, but I do think that this is why he maybe is so insistent that he's not friendly with King Charles, because if that's a man who is known to meddle in government policy in a hot button environment like COVID shutdown regulations, you do not want that to be implicating you as the monarch on any front. So that's just speculation from me. The saga of Bad Cinderella ends in 2022 when I believe it was June 11th. The show was closing. It was the last performance. Understandably, I'm not going to read you the reviews. It was bad. Nobody liked the show. There are some synopses on YouTube that I think are very entertaining if you want to go listen to those. This article from Vulture opened, Patti LuPone has two things to smile about tonight. Not only did she win her third Tony, but her arch nemesis got booed. So Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber chose not to attend the final performance of Cinderella in the West End. We knew that this was the closing performance. He decides not to be there. Instead, he sent a letter which was read aloud on stage by the show's director, Lawrence Connor, while the cast stood there kind of behind the director, on stage after final bows, looking absolutely devastated and gutted. I think some of them were crying. The closing notice itself was so abrupt that it caused Actors Equity, so the actors union, to seek compensation for the actors and crew members.
Oh my God.
And in this letter, Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote, "My huge thanks to everyone. We kept the government's feet to the flames and led the charge in the West End opening again. It might have been a costly mistake, but I am proud of what we did and will be forever grateful to everyone who supported me."
But not enough to show up for my casting crew.
A costly mistake. It was booed by the crowd, and the cast were visibly uncomfortable. He said later, "I am devastated to have been reported to have said that my beloved production of Cinderella was a costly mistake." And it's like, you did say that.
Yeah, so
he said, "Nothing could be further from the truth, and I am very sorry if my words have been misunderstood."
You write shows. I don't know what you're doing with your words. This is bananas.
Yeah.
It's so weird to watch people just light their careers on fire.
And this was before he was added to the Order of the Garter. So all of that did not matter. I think the friendship does go a little bit deeper with the royals than what we know. So yeah, there you go. That's my little deep dive for you on Andrew Lloyd Webber and his potential connection to the royal family.
All right. I feel really justified in hating the musical Phantom of the Opera now. I just want to put it out there.
Fair enough.
Don't like that show. Don't like it.
It's a little creepy. The movie's
creepy.
Good.
It's weird. I have heard the movie is good. I would like to see
Minnie
that.
Driver in it as Carlotta is getting a lot of TikTok recognition right now.
Oh, yeah?
There's some fan cams of her and people impersonating her. It's very fun.
Okay, that's amazing. I have to go look for that. I love those moments in that, overlap with, modern culture and pop culture, which is really fitting for our next show, our final show that we're going to talk about, which is one that is running right now off Broadway.
Okay.
Now, I am not going to say the name because it's called Prince F. And that is a derogatory term for a gay person. Sometimes in the gay community, people will use it. It's not my word, though. I heard Ta-Nehisi Coates when he did a whole thing about why certain words are just not ours.
Not for you.
I subscribe to that. So this is one that has caused a lot of stir because it is not pretending to be a different kingdom or anything. This is about Prince George. It imagines an 18-year-old Prince George who is gay, who has met a person of color, a man, very red, white, and royal blue, and how they are going to be together and what that looks like for the monarchy and the future of his reign. And a lot of people have an issue with it because his name is Prince George. Now, they do call him Tips in the show. That's his nickname.
Do you get why they call him Tips?
No, I actually don't.
There's a tea that's called PG Tips.
Oh.
So PG Prince George. I guarantee you that's why he's called
Okay,
Tips.
you know what? That's probably it. So I learned about the show because Richard Eden tweeted about how disgusting and
talk about
whatever.
The Streisand effect. Come on, Dick.
I know. Just went off on this. And I, of course, had to look it up because my guess was this is a reaction to the name of the show and the content. And it's meant to do that. It's meant to incite reaction and conversation online to get people to come see it. Because what's interesting is it has been very critically acclaimed as one of the best shows. It was one of the awards for Critics' Choice. It also has really affordable matinees and tickets for 99 cents. So they're trying to allow more people to come in. The whole cast is trans or gay.
Okay.
But of course, the title and the fact that it's talking about Prince George, and to be clear, this show is one of those shows where you have to put your phone in a case because there is full nudity. There is a scene where someone is Prince George is bound and BDSM, and there's simulation of peeing on someone. I mean, it goes there. Okay. It goes there. And this is a child who's 11 in real life. So it does feel shocking. And that's something that a lot of people debate, this whole using an actual person who happens to be a little boy right now. And so what I saw someone say about just the name of the play and having George in it is that the title is a perfect title because the whole point is that it's an oxymoron. He can be a prince or an F word, but not both. Right off the bat, I have not seen the show, so I can't comment on it from that regard. It's uncomfortable that it is based on an 11-year-old. I also wonder, though, how impactful it would be if it had a made-up kingdom. According to people who've seen it, it's a very specific critique on the British monarchy because it brings in the colonialism and all these different things that I don't know how it works without basing it on the actual royal family. So here is one of the reviews. This review is by the same person who reviewed Diana the Musical for the New York Times.
Oh, good. So we know they have taste.
So here's what they say. The real shocker is the play is thrilling, despite the name. And if the playwright meant to shock, mission accomplished, but it's actually good. And in the beginning, in the prologue, 6 of the actors debate the propriety of telling the story in the first place.
Okay.
So what's interesting about the show is it's not really about gayness, according to this critic. That Tip's public coming out is not in the event a big deal, and his sexuality is no hindrance to his role in the monarchy. What he says it does is successfully dramatize the centuries-long headache of false exceptionalism that Tip's embodies, even as a gay man. And the monarchy, which the playwright Tana Hill argues, who is a Canadian writer, is no good for anyone, even aside of its costs. It's a human hierarchy of unearned greatness. It dehumanizes everyone, et cetera, et cetera. So it's giving this critique, which of course people who just see the headline or the title are not going to get, and they are going to miss that. Cosmo magazine also comments on the controversy around the show.
Took you a second to
I know. I have to always think about it before I say it.
Controversy.
So they say that it holds a mirror up to society and it is a fearless drama. What they say is that the show sparks an important conversation and lights fires under otherwise comfy seats. You can't have a knee-jerk reaction in a live theater audience the way you can in an online forum. You're forced to ruminate until the final curtain. And I think that that's actually a really good argument for the fact that theater and art should be controversial, and good art does push you and make you think whether you agree with it or not. And one of the reasons this play actually came about is, do you remember the 2017 picture Sassy Prince George?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, can you describe the photo for people?
This was a picture from when Prince George was 5 years old, I want to say. And he has his trademark side-swept blonde bangs. There were several where he's just kind of being a little boy, and there's one where he's in a tractor, I think, and he's holding his face and he's kind of just being very cute. And then there are other ones just based on the way he's walking, hips forward or waving with both hands. People at the time were yes, a sassy icon. And of course, people like Gary Janetti seized on that to make George into a gay icon. And that's why I'm well, I know that we did kick up a fuss about the show on HBO,
which was called The Prince.
Right, where George was also the key player, but he was still a young boy, but he was cast into this role of a sassy, older gay man. And he gives quips on everybody in the family. He talks about his stylist and getting spray tans and all this stuff. So
have you seen the show?
I've seen the show. Yeah.
Yeah. And Charlotte's a secret agent.
I love my favorite.
Pretty. Listen, it excoriates everyone. No one is safe in the show.
I think the problem with the show is not even Charlotte, not even Louis, who they make Louis into a rough and tumble, little cockney man. He so just weird. Barrels through everybody. I think that's fine. It is the George angle where we're thrusting young children into these roles that could be true, and not really holding the mirror up to ourselves and being why am I so eager to put this lens onto a child?
Yes.
We've had theater before use the real life Windsors. I'm thinking there was a play in 2014 called King Charles III. It debuted on the West End. It did end up going to Broadway for a limited run. And it looked ahead to Charles and his family gathering after the death of Queen Elizabeth II. And in the show, you see Prince Harry starts a relationship with a Republican woman, a small R Republican in the UK. So they talk about what his relationship will mean for the future of the monarchy, which is very interesting now that we have Meghan. In the show, both Charles and William have seen the ghost of Princess Diana, promising each man that he will become the greatest king of all. So there have been instances where we reimagine the future of the British monarchy before, but I do agree that the shocking aspect of this one being the child is a larger trend in pop culture right now that I don't love.
Yeah, and I think too, to that point, is one of the things that I forget where I read this, is that when that photo came out, this need to say, this is going to be the picture we're going to look back on and say, oh, we always knew he was gay because look at this. The opposite could happen too. He grows up and he is a
very
white
straight
man. And it's just yeah, he was just a kid. But one of the things, and I can't remember where I read this, was this idea of putting a label on children. I mean, how often are little boys just asked, do you have a girlfriend, in assuming the straightness of them? So that was another thing that was brought up is kind of this obsession around labeling kids or trying to predetermine who they are and what that means. But what's interesting, given all of that, is the Telegraph's review of the show.
Oh boy, I'm sure it's very rational.
And I need to tell you something.
Okay.
This is Harry and Meghan's fault.
Why didn't we say that earlier, Meredith? We could have saved so much time.
Interesting about the Telegraph's review is they don't just go in with a straight review, no pun intended. They go with this argument that Americans are obsessed with making royals gay. And I have a little bit of an issue with that. One small issue. The playwright's Canadian. So he is Canadian. So already off the bat, we have a little issue with this. You know, it's not written by an American, but also there have been rumors about royals throughout the centuries of lavender marriages and stuff like that. This is not some like Americanized.
They really think
desire
no
to
royal
make
has ever
queer.
been. They've never really think that no royal has ever been gay before, and it is all America's fault. That's fascinating.
Yes. They call this, in this review, it's a peculiar, pervasive trend. Americans turning our royal family into an explicitly gay soap opera. Okay, number one, you don't need Americans to turn the British royal family into a soap opera. The media does that by themselves, whether it's gay or not.
If we're talking about Red, White, and Royal Blue, half of that book was about the White House also. So
yes, bring that up, and the fact that, you know, of course, the American president's all open and blah, 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 but the king is, they go through that whole thing too. So they bring up the fact that it is a picture of George, a real life 4-year-old George, that this viral photograph was the jumping off point for this show. And what we're told is part of this gay fever of the royal family by Americans is because Harry and Meghan reside in Montecito. And so they have turbocharged royal fascination leading to all of this, which is interesting because I thought that nobody in America cared about Harry and Meghan. But yet they have turbocharged the interest, which has led to this perverse, disgusting, liberal interpretation of the British royal family by a Canadian playwright. And here's how it ends. If anything, it's an odd compliment, a sign that the Americans still can't get enough of our royals, even if they have to view them through a fictionalized, flamboyantly queer modern lens to justify their enduring obsession. Girl, this was an off-Broadway show in America. What are you doing? But besides the show, the Prince George show, there don't have other there's not other examples. And how do you know online chatter was solely Americans posting about this and making it trend? We don't know that. You can't just go on Twitter and be like, look at these Americans.
It's very circular. Yeah, circular logic. It's so crass, it must only be Americans doing it.
That's what's really interesting about it, is how many reviews, you know, do struggle with the title and the morality of basing this off a real person, despite the fact in the show he is 18. He is, you know, of consenting age. And does the show work without that angle?
Could you have named him someone else? Like, could you have just invented fake British royals?
Perhaps.
I don't know.
And create this alternate universe, right? Yeah. That could be it. It's very interesting that it becomes this critique, this negative review of Americanism, more so than anything else, despite the playwright being Canadian. I can't stress that enough. That totally, you would think if you're running with this, you know, let's go with this angle. Okay, yeah, that sounds great. Who's the playwright? Oh, it's this guy named, you know, blah, 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 blah. Oh, that's great. Where's he from? Oh, it says Canada. Well, can we just say he lives north of Michigan? We'll just say that.
The Telegraph loves to ignore the fact that maybe critical lenses being applied to the monarchy could have something to do with colonialism, their own attitudes towards fame and duty and media and like
the wealth, everything.
As you were saying, the show has depth to it that goes beyond the queer relationship, and it really is kind of used as a jumping off point, right, to other issues.
That's what I found. I think it runs through August 3rd. So if you're in the New York area, you're visiting, it's off Broadway. So if anyone goes and sees it,
please
let
report
us know.
back.
We would love a review. This was so fun. We've been waiting to do a theater episode for so long.
Yeah.
I loved this so much. But before we go, do you want to thank our people?
I want to thank our people. Yes. Thank you so much to our Patreon press secretaries, Molly, Nikki, Lulu, and Jessica, and of course to our crown jewel, the order of the baby's breath of Meredith's heart, Sir Christopher. Did you like my R roll?
It was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir Christopher, who would never force a show
during COVID
in the
lockdown.
West End during COVID. And our Patreon press secretaries would never get photographed outside at a meeting.
I was gonna say,
okay?
You guys are careful.
You guys are so careful. When do you think someone is going to get confused and think that we actually have press secretaries and that we are like running comms? And
I don't know, but I think it will be Richard Eden.
Probably. I mean,
somebody,
yes.
I made a rant video on TikTok the other day complaining about the conspiracies about me, which Meredith alerted me to.
Right now, they are out of control.
It's insane.
It's actually crazy right now.
So if you guys didn't know, I'm being paid by Kensington Palace to convert people to be royal fans, which is why I'm so mean to Kate and am jealous of her and hate her outfits every day.
None of it makes sense.
None of it makes sense. But I bring that up because Richard Eden, a long time ago, inspired a piece of my merch. It's t-shirt that says Meghan's Cheer Squad, because he was referring to me. He was writing about me on Twitter and Omid Scobie, and he would refer to us both as Meghan's cheerleaders. So I was like, oh, it's Meghan's Cheer Squad. And I like made shirts. And somebody commented on my video the other day and they were like, she's obviously a shill for Meghan. She has shirts that say Meghan's Cheer Squad. And it's like, you think I just came up with that? Like,
irony is dead.
Irony is dead.
I've also been in part of that Omid Scobie
Cheer Squad.
Meghan Cheer Squad. I've actually thought about this. You know, why now? Why are people coming out of the woodwork with this insane idea that you're actually trying to turn your audience to pro palace because Meghan and Harry don't make money for you? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's because Harry and Meghan aren't in the news as much, so I don't talk about them as much. So
exactly.
I talk about the royals because my page has always been a royal commentary page.
Yes.
But people who signed up to be in this space because we were pro Meghan at a time where it was unsexy to be pro Meghan are now like, whoa, you're turning tail on us. It's like, no, this is actually what I wanted to do all along.
What I've always done.
And I think there are a lot of people, this is a hot take, in the royal watching sphere that wouldn't be there if it weren't for Meghan, and should probably just see themselves to the door because they can't help but be nasty and be negative about every other person in the royal fold. But they're still tuned into those pages and like can't help themselves. That's a hot take.
My hot take is the fact that we both kind of made a decision of, although obviously you are a larger platform, to not cover Meghan and Harry as much because they're not in the news as much. They're not working.
I'll cover them when it's
big, important, big news, but other
or
than
if
that,
it's related to the royals.
You've always been a page about royals and royal commentary, which is so funny. Where people are like, now she says she's a royal commentator. It's like, she's always commented on the royals.
That's what that is.
It's inherently what she's doing. I always think about if I had to explain this to my mother,
right,
and I had to walk through it and read tweets, how would she react?
I think about
that's a good baseline
with my fiance. Sometimes I think to myself, okay, could I explain this to him and have it make sense? Or would I be like that person connecting the strings?
Yeah, from
Always Sunny. Carol, there is no Carol in HR. And that's when I know it's time to take a break, which I will be doing until the end of July. Should I tell the people, Meredith?
Please tell the people.
I'm going to be in Ireland when you are listening to this. So I'm very excited. This is our pre-wedding honeymoon, actually, me and Shane.
Ooh.
And we are looping in a follower trip at the end. So that'll be very fun. I can't wait to see some of you guys in Ireland. But yeah, Meredith's going to be flying solo until August.
I am. So we are going to have next week a pre-recorded episode that we had done on Patreon. So a little summer mailbag for everyone. And then I don't want to say the guest just in case anything happens, but I do have a guest tentatively lined up for the last week in July. So don't worry, you are still getting the content. We have actually had production meetings about this.
We love delivering content to you so much that like we actually discussed, should I take a break the week of my wedding? And like we are going to, but I think that'll be the only week out of the year where we don't have content for you.
The only date of the year. I mean, that was a big deal.
So please enjoy that guest episode as well as the Patreon mailbag, which went out earlier this summer. You will please forgive the part of the episode where we talk about the weather and we were like, it's like 75 degrees and humid. It's now 90 degrees and humid. So I didn't know what I had when I had it.
All the links are in our show notes. And please, if you have it in your heart, are you happy, Charles? Are you happy with the podcast? Please leave a review, especially on Apple, 5 stars. And sometimes we read them on air. Mm-hmm. So until next time, stay cool. Have an amazing trip in Ireland, Amanda.
Thank you. Everybody go watch Diana the Musical if you already have Netflix, but don't sign up for it if you don't already have it.
Maybe don't.